Istiklal Street is Istanbul's most famous pedestrian boulevard. What you're seeing here isn't just Ottoman nostalgia or European architecture transplanted to Turkey. It's evidence of one of history's most audacious experiments, an empire trying to transform itself fast enough to survive. The Ottomans called it modernization. Their enemies called it desperation. This wasn't ideology, it was pragmatism, doing what worked. So I'd like to show you some of the sights you'll see as you walk along the street and why they're important.
So welcome to Istiklal Caddesi. This is one of the main hubs of commerce and tourism in Istanbul, one of the busiest streets. And it's one of the most important streets in terms of the Ottoman history. Somebody here is definitely a Galatasaray fan, and of course that would make sense because this area is Galata. Galatasaray, the football team, actually means Galata Palace, and the team actually originated here. This street used to be called the Grand Rue de Pera, basically in French, the Great Street of Pera, because Pera used to be the name for this area, the Beyoğlu, and you'll see it everywhere. These up here, these buildings I'm underneath currently, are the Metro Han and Tunnel Gate buildings, and they sit above the funicular that goes between here and Karakoy, which is basically an underground tram that opened in 1875. Oh my God, there's even more flags. Galatasaray galore. So when you walk down this street, you're looking at one of the Ottoman Empire's biggest experiments, the move towards westernization and trying to become European to keep the empire moving and try and get some more financial investment into it. This was a massive risk to the Ottoman Empire, however, because how do you become European while retaining your original culture? And this is part of what Istanbul, even modern-day Istanbul, fights with these days. Being torn between East and West, between modernization and history, torn between Christianity and Islam, between Europe and Anatolia. So this building here is Narmanli Han. So originally it was the Russian embassy back in the Ottoman Empire times. And then it was turned into a Russian prison to hold Russian prisoners that were in Istanbul. And it was finally restored in 2011 now into a shopping arcade. And it's still got some of the original features inside.
A Russian-built, Ottoman-permitted, foreign-occupied building sitting on the Sultan's main street. What's interesting is what happened next. After the Russians were gone, Narmanli Han didn't become a museum or a monument, it became a home. Writers of a young Turkish republic taking shelter in a building put up by an empire that no longer existed. And now there's a Starbucks in here.
Wow, from Russian embassy to Starbucks. Well, that's a transition and a half. Right, back out into the melee. Right, there are so many police here, even I'm sort of thinking this is a special day or something, but I was speaking to the police and they said, no, it's normal for Beyoğlu. Anyway, whilst we're here, there's a side street I want to take a look at because there's an important destination at the end of it. It's called Asmalı Mescit Cd.
The people who facilitated transformation were the Levantines, Catholic Europeans who'd settled in Ottoman territories for generations. They weren't tourists. They were middlemen, translators, bankers. The empire's interface with the West, living right here in Pera.
So I wanted to come down this road because it's got an amazing sort of influence of European houses mixed in with some slight wooden parts of Ottoman houses. And it's got a very important building down at the end of it. This road is actually named after the original Asmalı Mosque, which is no longer here, it's now lost to the past. But there is a plaque dedicated to it. It's got a load of bins in front of it though, but you get the idea. But that's not the building I came down here for. The one I came down here for should be just round the corner. There she is. This is the Pera Palace Hotel, and it was built for a very important reason. It was built to host passengers getting off the Orient Express. It was built in 1892 and represents the... Thank you. It was built in 1892 and represents the absolute peak of luxury in Pera. Apparently it holds the title of the oldest European hotel in Turkey. It would have hosted royalty, diplomats, and spies, making it one of the most intriguing places at the time. The hotel was closed in 2006 and then reopened in 2010, renovated. It was nice and cool and breezy and quiet down here. Well, quieter comparatively. But, oh, Christ, let's try not to get run over. I think it's time we head back up once more to the main street. Wish me luck. I'm actually really concerned there might be a protest going on. I don't want to get involved, please, please. Right, back out into the crazy again. Try not to get run over by everybody. So coming up here is the new Russian consulate. We talked about Narmanli Han being the old Russian consulate. This became the embassy. But now obviously all the embassies have now moved to Ankara with the formation of the new republic and Ankara becoming the capital. So now all of these are consulates. Oh, wow, okay, we got a lot of police. Oh, I think I might have found the protest. Wow. It is wall-to-wall police here. Barroso, is that barristers? Lawyers, I think. Well, I'm definitely now on a list somewhere. Especially as we've just gone past the CCTV van. Nice. What was our next location? Or have I already gone past it? Feels like we're kind of getting back into the party spirit now. There's music going off everywhere. Still a few police vans though. This is the Istanbul Chamber of Commerce, as you might see on the front of the building. Slightly out of character for this street. But through there's a couple of museums. I think the Pera Museum and Salt Beyoğlu are up there as well. In around behind through there. But we're moving away from the police now. We're going to try and head to the part of Istiklal Caddesi that isn't occupied by 10,000 police. These are all police vans, by the way. I think this is it, yes. These things get so hidden in with the high street. It's crazy. Check that out. out there is that chaos. In here, it's so peaceful. I should come here more often. So this is the Catholic Church of San Maria Draperis. So it was established in 1678, and it's one of the oldest, if not the oldest, Catholic churches in Istanbul. It was founded by Franciscan friars who were looking for a piece of land, and Maria Draperis, who it's named after, donated the land to them.
Tolerance in the Ottoman Empire wasn't ideological, it was pragmatic.
And
the Ottomans needed Christian merchants, Jewish financiers, and European expertise. So the churches stayed open, the communities stayed anonymous, and Pera became a kind of Ottoman laboratory for coexistence. Not because it was virtuous, but because it was useful.
Anyway, onwards. I think they actually do organ recitals here as well, occasionally. I think it's like once a month or something like that. It might be this church, because I know they've got a pipe organ up there. So, pretty sure. I think it's this church. Wonderful place, and we'll come back in more detail one day. Anyway, back to chaos! Over here is the Muzr apartment, which means corn or Egyptian. Yeah, I think in this case it's the Egyptian apartments. And yeah, it's quite renowned for its architecture. I can see why. Right, so now we're getting towards sort of the middle of Istiklal Caddesi, and this is where some of the most famous passages start. Oh, another police van. Getting used to them now. This is where the passages start. So these are old arcades that were owned by European families, and a lot of them have been renovated, not perfectly, but yeah, they've started to now be used again and renovated as modern arcades for shopping.
Modernisation wasn't just about embassies and trade offices. It needed social infrastructure. Enter the Pasaj.
Trinkets and baubles down here, and yeah, knickknacks and some tat. Wow, and it opens out into this courtyard. Check this out.
These were covered passages, modelled on Parisian arcades. They weren't shopping malls. They were neutral ground, spaces where Ottoman Muslims, Greek Orthodox, Armenian Christians and European expatriates could drink coffee, conduct business, exchange ideas. The passage was where the experiment actually happened at street level. One of the best examples of this would be the Flower Passage.
So the interesting thing about the Flower Passage is where its name comes from. Basically, after the Russian Revolution, lots of the upper classes had to flee Russia, and Istanbul was one of their destinations. And they came in their hundreds, thousands, and they would have to go back to work as just regular people. You know, their riches weren't worth anything here. And some were cobblers, some were traders, some were silk sellers, and some would come here and become flower sellers, including a famous baroness. And that's how the place got its name. So among all these flags here is the Galatasaray post office, or what was the Galatasaray post office. The Galatasaray post office here was basically bought as a family residence back in 1875. It was later then converted into an arts and culture research and study centre by Galatasaray School, Galatasaray University, which brings us to the next part. So this is Galatasaray High School, which was founded in 1481, so it's pretty damn old. And it became the modern lycée in 1868. It was the first Ottoman school to teach French alongside Ottoman as a language. And it produced many Ottoman statesmen and political figures. It's kind of a symbol of the modernization of the Ottoman education system. Now, it's actually a functioning high school today, so we can't get in there, obviously. I think they do open days sometimes, but no, not today. But you can see the amazing gates outside.
These European buildings weren't necessarily about becoming European. They were about survival. The Ottomans adopted what worked. By the 1800s, the empire really had to choose, modernize or die. This architecture is their answer. Every embassy, every school, every facade was a gamble, a bet on the future. Some worked, some didn't. So, did it work? Did the Ottomans modernize fast enough? Well, the empire collapsed, but this street survived. These buildings survived. The schools, the churches, the Pasaj Culture, they're still here. Not as museum pieces, but as living infrastructure. Maybe that's the real answer. The empire lost the gamble, but Istanbul won something else. A template for how different worlds can share the same street. In a future video, we'll head up to Taksim, which is at the end of Istiklal Street. It's a perfect example of how the Ottoman Empire became the Turkish Republic.
I came here on a Monday thinking it would be quieter. No, God knows what it's like on a Saturday. Can you imagine? Jesus.